Okay, folks, thanks so much for again being here for the second round of conversations. So this conversation is going to be around the topic of downsizing and its impact across the economy, impact of students, impact of companies, and so on. So that's what we're going to be discussing today. So we have two more participants in the conversation today, and actually we would love to have them here because they bring a very valuable perspective to the core engineering sector, because they pretty much work in the space of electronics and mechanical engineering. So there are folks in those spaces. I think it's going to be very illustrative today. So to give an initial introduction about this topic, I think this is the most pressing topic in terms of what's happening out there. All the media is full of reports about Google laying off thousands of employees, Microsoft laying off employees, Meta laying off employees, like tens of thousands of employees. So I think that there's a little bit of media hype around this issue, saying that things are all crashing. Bangalore tech industry is getting wrecked. Silicon Valley is a disaster. I think the last count was that 200,000 people in the Silicon Valley have lost their jobs. And I think around, I would say maybe 40% of people who work in Silicon Valley are Indians. So that means a lot of Indians also lost their jobs. I think that's what it means. So maybe in terms of the conversation today, all of us maybe bring a different perspective to this topic. So let me first do one round of quick discussions in terms of what are the initial thoughts in terms of when you hear about downsizing, layoffs, what are the initial thoughts which come to your mind? And then we'll do a conversation in terms of getting into more details in terms of where are the sectors which have been impacted, what are the pros and cons of downsizing. So we'll do that conversation for maybe 1.5 hours, and then we'll open it up to Q&A for 1.5 hours. Okay, so let's begin with maybe Karan taking it away in terms of this initial thoughts around this phenomenon before we delve deeper.
So for me, downsizing is nothing but reducing the employee strength of the company to improve the financial book, that is to reduce the cost. It helps the company a lot, and it is a very common business perspective. However, downsizing also has a very negative impact to the company. The motivation of the employees decreases, and there's a hula hula what is happening to the company. Is the company going down and stuff? So yes, downsizing is important for the company sometimes. However, it creates a lot of negative impact, and this is what I want to discuss about.
I was thinking, actually when I came here, I was thinking work from home is the topic. So I was mentioning that discussion को घर से होना चाहिए, जो support में करते हैं उनके. यहाँ पे बैठ के, but now I realize the topic is downsizing. See, I come from that genre where I will not know, so in terms of people will have their perspectives, I talk about your perspective. As a candidate, as an employee, we get very scared. हम लोग कहीं पे भी जाते हैं ना, तो दो चीज लेके जाते हैं, वो है भूख, एक पेट का भूख और एक दिमाग का भूख. We take hunger, brain hunger and stomach hunger. Whenever anything gets hit, we become very scared. End of the day. Downsizing is that kind of where wherever status you are a VP, you are a director, you are an engineer, you are an intern. If that hits you, it feels bad. That is the first thing. What we talk about now, there are downsizing of two types. One, it happens within the organization where सब देख रहे हैं और आपके organization में हो रहा है, where everything is happening and you are a part of the ecosystem of downsizing which is happening. Now while we go ahead with the discussion, we'll know why it is happening internally only or why it is happening across the globe. My 2 cents is, to start with downsizing, it's a very negative term. It's a total negative term, honestly. Or we have to stay away from this. While we discuss how we stay away from this, please take experts from there. That how what you can do to stay away from it, you cannot avoid it, guys. आप कुछ भी कर लो, आप इस negative term से नहीं निकल पाओगे. But what you need to do to stay away from it, I think that you need to focus upon to learning out of this.
Yes, everybody heard about the downsizing or the right sizing, and is it inevitable? Every company goes through. The specific reason is the business world out there is highly competitive. Whether we like it or not, we have to be there. And the other companies are growing and we cannot be left behind and we have to compete with them. And the companies start basically investing and the investors keep pumping the money into the industry. And it builds up a momentum, and after some time they realize they may not be making it hits a tipping point, and then one company makes the decision, and then everybody starts following it up. That's what we see the cycles, right? We saw it in 2002, we saw it in 2008, and then we saw it this time. Now, for the companies, they have to go through periodically, it is a cyclical, they go through this kind of a cycle. And is it the mistake of the company? Sometimes it is the mistake of the company, or the decision making was not proper. In many cases, they have to be there, because otherwise they will not even survive in some cases. Now, when they have to right size it, when it comes to a point where everybody keeps questioning the company about the profitability and the growth of the company, they have to make the decision, and when the other big company makes the decision, sometimes it becomes easy for the other companies to follow them and justify it. Now that's for the company. Now for the employees, it is really very, very difficult. Especially, it also depends on the culture. Right now, in US and all, it is accepted. People getting laid off and the companies closing, and everybody takes it as basically a business decision. But in the context of India, now especially in the society environment, if somebody is removed from the employment and all, they consider it as a very bad, and still we may have to go a long way to accept that these are all part of business which happens. And that is the difficult part probably, which everybody should be prepared. And there are certain ways where you can overcome that one, and you will be able to easily find the alternative. Specifically, if you are confident and if you are good in terms of your skill set, and most of the time you don't have to worry, the businesses will make its own decision. You will still have the opportunity to survive in that environment. But as we keep discussing, I think you'll come across some of those aspects so that it happens, and you have to discover how to basically survive in this world.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Yeah, thanks for giving me this opportunity. So, I believe we have gone through the what is meant by downsizing as well as what is meant by right sizing. So, as sir mentioned, the downsizing is totally negative as well as the worst for me as well as for youngster who was going to begin their career in corporate field. Okay, downsizing normally happens due to one major reason, that is cost saving, cost reduction. Okay, and so as an HR perspective, I would like to say, so we should focus on our skills, competency, and capabilities. So we among a few employees, if we are more competitive and competent employee, so no our senior, no boss, and no leadership can decide to downsize like a more competitive employee. So I would like to say we should focus on building skill, competencies, and capabilities. So one more thing. So as an HR person, normally me as well as my friends discuss, do you know what is downsizing? Do you have knowledge of downsizing? Normally HR heads who is recruiting new HR person, they are also asking, do we have any background or any knowledge or any concept about what is downsizing? So as sir mentioned, big tech industries are taking these kinds of actions. Means horizontally this may be happen across the world, in India as well.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. Nice to see you all. Around 200 participants are there. So you like what to know from HR perspective on downsizing. So I am not from HR. I am from a technical side. So I may have to give you a different perspective, right? Yeah. So the downsizing, the topic came because many big tech companies has already done it. So they laid off many people, like companies like Google, Microsoft, Meta, Amazon. So all major names are doing it. So why they are doing it? So since I have given this topic, so I have gone through a lot of journals on it. So everything is available in Google. So like after the study, they have come up with 2-3 points. So the first point is like, there is an assumption like most of the newcomers will be laid off. But in this case, it's not the case. So the average age after study, they have found out like 11.5 years is the average age of laid off employees. Like around 10,000 employees are laid off from each of these companies. Even Indian startups are doing it. So Indian startups, the average age may be different. So this is the first case. And the second thing, they have found out like the percentage of employees from different departments. And they found out like 28% is from HR. The layoff happened from HR, it is around 28%. So remaining 72 is from the tech side of the story. So HR, there is a reason. Because US and Europe are going through recession, just waiting for recession. So everyone is preparing for recession. So there may not be much recruitments for maybe next 2-3 years. And like AI has come up like anything. In Amazon, this employee performance appraisal is done through AI. So they have a system they have developed, and where they do the scrutiny of employees. And for new recruiters also, they have AI for all these things. So in India also, people are working on it. So there will be a reduction in all those areas. But like as you know, a lot of new jobs are also coming up. In India, if you see, this may not be the right topic to discuss today. Because India is growing at around 6% in GDP. India is just now, is the 5th economic, if you see the economy is ranked, India is 5th. The first is US, then China, then Japan is there, and Germany. So India is 5th, with 3 trillion around. Now India is aiming for 5 trillion by 2030. We may achieve it by 2028 also. So that's the expectation. So the growth planned is around 6 to 8%. So this happened even after COVID. Like COVID, everyone was expecting like there will be a huge reduction. Yeah, we had a negative GDP growth during that time. But immediately after COVID, it was like 2020. In 2021 and 2022, the growth is around 6 to 7% in GDP. The recent budget also, if you see, there is a lot of emphasis given for the future growth. Like if you see the infrastructure development which India is planning, last year they have planned for 7.5 lakh crore investment. This year it increased to 10 lakh crore investment. So 10 lakh crore investment you can assume. Like it will be like, this is the investment by the government, capital outlay, but the equal amount or maybe the triple amount, triple is the normal calculation, will be done by the private companies also. So the chunk of investment which is going to come up in next year will be around 14 lakh crores. Because infrastructure development means we are from Tata, Hitachi. So we are into construction segment. So we are manufacturing construction equipments, supplying for all these development for India. Our motto is Chalo Desh Banaya. So we are building the nation. So the nation has just started building. Yeah, we have started for a very long, we started from very long back, but slowly we are building the nation. So the potential for us is huge. And the technology is coming into every sector if you see. Like since we are from manufacturing, I will tell you the industry 4, you all might be knowing it, the IoT, Internet of Things. So which is adding a lot of values to our processes. But there is no job reduction as such. So there actually, if you see, the AI we can use it for improving our processes like production planning, the loss which is there in the shop floor, and the quality defects identification. So all those things we are improving the product. So there is a huge potential for export also. So with this, I'll continue during the discussion, the remaining things. Thanks for giving me the opportunity, and back to Vinod sir.
Awesome folks. So again, just my thoughts on this topic. Okay, it's a very interesting topic. A lot of facets and perspectives from different directions. So let me maybe ask you folks a question. So when I look at newspapers, what we see is the layoffs happening in the FAANG companies, Meta, Netflix, Google, Amazon. There are also companies like Airbnb, Snap, Pinterest, laying off people. Can someone tell me what's common across all these companies? Anyone?
So basically, if we are talking about the downsizing, so it is an adverse effect of the inflation. So let's say if the inflation comes, then the US Fed and our RBI is going to hike the what I'll say repo rate up to 25 to 50 basis points. This is what when the banks are going to take the loan from them. So once the banks are taking loan, there is a reduction in the loan sizing. So if the banks is going to take less loan, then they will provide less amount of the money to the startups and many MNCs. If they are taking
Hold on. I think you're raising a very, very valid point, and I think I'll come back to you. I think the macroeconomic uncertainty is the word. That's awesome. I would love to hear some of this analysis from you. So let me try just answering this question I asked. Right? What's common across the
all service sector industry.
Yeah, awesome. So that's exactly what I was talking about. All these companies, Airbnb, Snap, Pinterest, Bank, they're all tech companies. So when you hear news that all companies, all employees are being laid off, not really, that's not true. Many folks in tech companies are being laid off, especially the big tech companies, they are getting laid off. Okay. So I mean, newspapers don't really present that side of the story to where exactly is the impact. Just now we heard from Mr. Shenodh and Mr. Shivanand that their industry is not impacted. And part of the reason why it's happening is because yes, big tech is laying off people, but a lot of the other traditional sectors like logistics, operations, supply chain, transportation, they're hiring people. So the unemployment rate has come down from like 7% to I think around 3.5% in the US. And the reason why I tell the US is because I think a lot of the tech companies in India and a lot of the startups in India are being funded by US money, right? US venture capital funds and startup funds. So I think what's happening in the US is beginning to impact India to some level, okay? So please be aware that things are looking much better in certain areas, but yes, big tech, there's some reasons why things are not looking great, and we'll get into more reasons of why it's happened. And I think there was some, again, some fantastic information by Mr. Srivathsa from MapleLabs about, I think Indians crave a sense of job security. That's one of the reasons why everybody wants to work in public sector jobs, right? I mean, they don't want to work in private sector because they want job security. Even the pay is low, it doesn't matter. I want a job for life. So the problem with the private sector is that this is the problem that yes, you will get high pay, but you will not have job security, right? You will have to be on your own, you will have to pick up new skills. There's a lot of unlearning, relearning required. So both sectors are very different. You can't expect private sector to give you lifelong job security. It doesn't happen. I think it's still taking some time for many Indian folks to understand that there is nothing called 100% job security when it comes to the private sector, right? So that's unlike in the US where everyone knows that you can be fired anytime. So they are happy with it, and the companies are also happy with it. So everyone is happy there. I would also say that there's been a little bit of a Silicon Valley bubble which has built up over the past couple of years, and I will delve into it deeper in terms of what's been happening. And even in US companies, do you guys know what's happening to Apple? Impact of layoffs on company Apple? Anybody
They
know?
don't have large layoffs.
Sorry?
Apple do not have as large as a layoff like the other companies are having.
They don't have any layoffs.
Yes, they are almost no layoff.
Any layoffs? Because they never recruited too many people in the first place. So I think every company is suffering the consequences of bad decisions in the past. It's coming back upon them. Apple has been very conservative in hiring, and they have no problems. Okay. So again, we'll come back to this topic. But again, let me stop speaking. Let me maybe get a little bit into what's happened in the past 2 to 3 years, which created this bubble in terms of hiring too many people. I would love to go across the room, maybe starting with Mr. Shenodh, work backwards in terms of what happened to create some of these problems.
Yeah, as you told, there was a hiring spree immediately after COVID. So everyone was in the world, it was during COVID it went to zero, negative. Most of the places, the growth was in the negative direction. So the uncertainty was there. So immediately the things seems to be changing, and the new world, the new normal, and everything came up. So most of them got during that time also there was a lot of layoffs in every sector. So the talent was freely available. So everyone was making their asset using this talent pool. So the hiring spree was and if you see in Bangalore also, the salary hikes, people were switching like anything. In 2-3 years, most of my friends also have changed to 3 companies. So you will get around 30-40% salary hike because you will not get in staying in the same company. As sir told, like private company, there is no job security thing. So India is accepting or not, it's not in our culture. That's why everyone is preferring these public sector companies. But still, the private sector employees, they have an option to increase their salary, like by switching the jobs. So this was happening like anything in Bangalore and in most of the countries. But China, it was the different case. If you see, like there, everything was coming down. Still, last 3 months there is some improvement, but it's very slow. But because of this, the salaries have gone up like anything. So companies may not be able to pay the same salary every day. It all depends on their business, their income, what their sales they are making. And the technologies are also changing very fast. And the competition is also like coming up. So a lot of startups, if you take the case of Byju's, so what happened was during COVID, there was no school system. So everyone was depending on the online classes. So they have done like a huge investment and lot of revenue generation for them. They took over Akash Academy and a lot of takeover happened during that time.
Sir,
But
Byju's is currently running a huge losses in their business.
yes. Why? Because this COVID thing, it was there for 1 year, you can say. Immediately after vaccine and everything, the new normal came back immediately. Because with the mask, with the sanitizer, everyone was roaming around like, they called it as new normal. Now we came back to normal. So that business doesn't have any life. Because during 1 year, 1.5 year period, they made the maximum business. But immediately after that, so it was very difficult for them to adjust. Like if you are running a business where your growth is like this and immediately you have to come down like this, you can imagine how many employees you can retain. So that's the main asset for them. And the people are like, even the students started going to classes. So the requirement for the online classes like reduced like anything. So they have to cut down their employees. So this is what happened for them. And as he told, so they ran into a huge loss. They there are staggered payment issues about those things. So everything was there in the newspaper. So such issues have happened with most of the companies, mainly with the startups. Even this Bitcoin thing. So a lot of data mining companies has come up. But as you know, like Bitcoin also went up like this and immediately came down. It's a different story behind it. So totally different discussion. So the same thing happened with those companies also. So they are forced to remove their employees and reduce the size so that to sustain the company. So that was the main motto for them. So for that they have to reduce the manpower. Yeah, that's from my side.
Yeah, I agree with you, sir. So after COVID, COVID-19, there were lots of hiring. So actually, we think without manpower, we can't run a company or we can't run a business. But simultaneously, big corporates as well as medium-sized industry is focusing on build rest 2 M's, that is machine as well as methods. So now companies are focusing on to develop internal method, internal process where they can optimize and reduce manpower. So in my previous company, what happened after COVID-19, so we introduced a learning management system. This is one example in learning and development vertical of HR. And then I was alone managing all learning and development activities, and we reduced one of my colleague, that was a different reason. And I was handling independently other learning and development activities. So this same and this case is happening in each and every business segment. So that's why I think we are few industries are facing the downsizing scenario.
As I mentioned earlier, it was a competition, and the competition for the resources, competition for the investment, and everybody start feeling that they are losing the opportunity. Now the interest rate was low, there was a lot of money available in the market, and to get the maximum return they have to invest, and they started investing in companies. And for the employers, now the we work with a lot of these multinational companies who are established in India for the last 30 years and all. They are a little bit, in terms of their pay scale, employee pay scale and all, they pay higher. And when we are started discussing with them, right, they are also telling that employees are leaving them also with basically some of them are like 80% and 100% raise in the salaries. They are also clueless because there are other segment or the other industry, in the related industry, there is a lot of investment was happening. Everybody wanted to make sure stabilize and get basically some hold into that business. Free money was available. They were getting either the bridge loan or the investment. They have to invest it, and they are investing mostly on the human resources. They were ready to pay any amount of salary and get the good resources. And it started impacting not just the small companies, as I mentioned earlier, even the big tech companies also it impacted. Now, as a result of this one, the cost of operation basically start going up. And it is not just in India, even in the Silicon Valley, right? And even the people never heard of those salaries for the software engineers level and all. They are basically 3 or 4 times whatever they are getting. And naturally it has to come down because whenever the cost goes up, at some point of time everybody start questioning about the profitability and they have to bring it down. That is where then they start rationalizing which is the right way to cut down the cost. And in some cases they will take out the entire product line itself. No matter who is working, everybody will basically terminated in the job. In some cases they try to optimize the cost and based on some criteria they basically reduce the employee count, and that's how usually it happens. And it may not be the fault of the employees, and sometimes you may ask why me, why I am impacted. There will not be a definite answer in those cases where the bubble has gone up and it has to burst and it has to come down, and it does happen.
Thank you so much, sir. I think the 3 panel members have covered the segment that why it happens. I will not repeat it again. I'll just give a small context which is realistic. In the last 15 years of my career, I've worked with 10 companies. And 5 times I had to do this. Right sizing, as I might call it. I'll tell you how does it happen in a simple words. So, मोटा-मोटा आपको समझ में आएगा कि actually होता क्या है. So one day, CEO comes down and he calls HR meeting. And this is a very, I will take a couple of minutes just to give them a right picture. Me and Vinod would have done that in our previous employments. So, बुलाते हैं एक अचानक दिन, one of day पता और उसका ना backdrop, they start with 1 week. Oh, business is not performing well, our costs have gone up. So every business, like we have an operating cost and we have a regular fixed cost. So when you start reducing your expenses, you first reduce the operating cost rather than the fixed cost. Fixed costs are what? Those are immovable assets like your offices, like your other things which you cannot just overnight give it away. So when you start reducing them, then we see in people front, it is the most easiest way to reduce the cost. लोगों को ऐसा नहीं है कि CEOs think people are commodities, where we as people leaders play a very important role. We sensitize them कि आपका brand कैसे impact होगा, how the market will perceive all these things, and how the employees' morale will go up. Because some people have given their blood, soul, sweat to build your company, and one fine day you come back and say, "निकाल दो उनको." Is this the sensitivity we are trying to focus? Logistics company, my last organization, I will not name them, but they were like this. They were absolutely insensitive to people. उनके लिए लोग एक commodity थे, आलू प्याज जैसे. But certain organizations like which I worked, I was part of Tata Group, one of the best organizations to work in this globally, in fact. And we were part of EPC vertical where we had to lay off people because the projects were bleeding and we could not sustain the people. So the discussion happens and then they build this 1 week कि निकालना है, and then they come back where we can reduce cost. So there are 4-5 things which we do as people leaders before we take that decision. So first parameter which we take is how many new employees have joined to the organization. So the first axe comes to the people who are the new joiners. Second axe comes to the people who are not potential contributors, like they are good to have. They are not impact makers. The third which we choose is based on the cost. Cost is not the first factor to reduce downsizing or do downsizing. The fourth factor is in terms of those people who have not performed in the organization for a year. In fact, because non-performance अगर होता तो पहले निकाल देते. Why should we have sustained them for until waiting this period? And the fifth is the people who come from well-off families. We do that, and I'm being very, very candid with all of you in this closed room. This we do. And these are the parameters where we boil down. So technically in an IT product organization, the staff cost should not be more than the revenue which we are earning, should not be more than 30 to 35%. But this downsizing happens where we startups or any new venture, when we go up, we pay hefty salaries, the bubble gets bloated, comes to 60%. We have to reduce it to 35% so that people who are there in the company, their salaries are paid. Personal opinion is that I have not been able to convince the CEOs not to downsize, rather you take a salary cut. Let all employees together come forward and take a 50% salary cut ताकि सबका आजीविका चलता रहे. कुछ लोगों का चलेगा, कुछ लोगों का नहीं होगा. This bias structure I have not been able to figure out with the CEOs so far because they have different tangent of thinking and we think in a different way. But this is the hard reality and it is very difficult, guys. The day we do it, 1 week we just could not be in our senses. So difficult.
So I want to ask you one question. What is the percentage of the employment that Meta and Amazon has increased due to COVID, during the pandemic? Any guesses?
Sorry? 20,000 to 30,000. It was something like in that range.
Pretty close actually. They increased their employee strength by 100%. And Microsoft and Google, they have increased by 50% and Apple by 20%. So they did this just because of the pandemic, because there were a lot of new users which were coming in their platform. Yes. So why there's a huge layoff right now? So if you can see the total number of users in these big tech giants, so it has increased to a very huge, very large point, and now it is decreasing as the people are moving towards their normal life. As the number of active monthly users are decreasing, so the revenues of these companies started declining, and they feel that the number of employees that they have increased is of no use. So they are downsizing currently. So I believe that this is one of the reasons why the bubble has been created, and because of this reason, the downsizing has been happening here.
Thanks everyone for your comments. I would again add a couple of other statistics just to help people understand what's happening in the sector. If you look at all these companies, right, if you go to media headlines, they say 10,000 people laid off in Google or 12,000 laid off in Meta. But what they do not tell you is what percentage of the workforce has been laid off. I think that's most important. So the truth remains that I think Meta laid off around 6-7% of the employees, Google laid off around again 5-6% of the employees. So it is not like a lot of people got laid off, only a very small segment got laid off. And do you know what is the annual attrition in these companies? Like number of people leaving the company every year, many of these big tech companies, any guesses? Like what's the attrition number for all these big tech companies?
Sir, please repeat the question.
What's that?
Please repeat the question.
What is the annual percentage of people who leave the big tech companies and go on for better career opportunities and so on?
Maybe 5 to 10%.
5 to 10%, that's a good guess. Actually, the number is 18%. 15 to 18% of people leave big tech companies every year. So 5% of employees leaving because of right sizing and downsizing is not a big deal. It's part of a larger picture. Even if everything was perfect, still you will have around 15 to 20% of people who leave big tech. That's just the nature of the game. And I mean, I'm in the middle of a lot of this craziness. That's the nature of the world. There's nothing to be surprised about. So I would say that in terms of what happened during COVID is two things. One is that a lot of hiring mistakes. And I think a lot of CEOs have accepted responsibility. They've taken personal responsibility. Sundar Pichai from Google made it very clear that he owns personal responsibility for making hiring mistakes. And I think Mark Zuckerberg, he too made an admission that he made a lot of blunders when it came to hiring. A lot of startup CEOs in India, they also talk about hiring too many people. So it's like things are coming back to normal. So that's why right sizing is a better way, because when I say downsizing, it's almost like there is some number up there and going down. No, that's not the truth. The right number is somewhere in the center. Things went up and it's now coming back to normal. So that's why I say right sizing is probably a better way to look at it. other thing, what's happened in the past 2 years is probably what my friend mentioned here in terms of inflation rates have changed dramatically. The currency exchange rates have changed dramatically. So maybe can you, within like very quick summary, can you talk about what happens with some of the macroeconomic scenarios?
Basically, the inflation.
Can you just come up here and talk for like 30 seconds or 1 minute if you don't mind?
So basically, once the inflation increases, so what the country used to do to control the inflation, they basically ask the central banks, just like RBI, to increase the repo rate. Once the repo rate is increased, repo rate is the rate at which the banks, different banks are going to take the loan from the RBI for the business purpose. So basically, once that particular repo rate is increased, so they are taking less amount of the loans from them. So if the loan size is decreased, so they will give, allocate very less amount of the money to the startups. So once the startup got less amount of the money, so they have to manage their operational cost. So due to that operational cost, they have to do that certain layoffs kind of stuff. That's
awesome. I think that's a good economic analysis. Okay, folks, again, I think you made some very good points out here. But key thing basically is that I think a lot of free money available is no longer available anymore because the interest rates are increased. Now, companies will have to borrow at much higher rates of interest. You borrow at high rates of interest, you also need to show more profits. It means that you cannot have the same cost as before, the same operational cost as before. So, companies are forced to be more performance right now compared to 3 years back. So, things have changed in the economy for sure. Let's also now go a little bit to a connected topic, which is around what's happening in some of the sectors which have been impacted. So maybe based on your interest, you can talk about like what the tech evolution in some of the big tech companies, what are the trends you're seeing, how is it impacting the traditional companies. So can we just go around, maybe start with Karan?
Regarding the downsizing, it has only been impacted right now in the tech sector, and I don't think there's any other sector which is being impacted. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen a large number of layoffs, especially in the construction and the manufacturing sector. And at that time, the tech sector was booming, and more number of employees were increasing. Right now, I think even the total number of employees in the tech is increasing. So we are seeing a lot of downsizing and a lot of number of employees are being fired upon. However, the traditional companies are hiring them at a much increasing rate. So I have a statistics from the Jeep Recruiter. So they have been tracking these layoffs, and they found that 80% of the employees who have been fired got a job in the next 3 months, and 40% got a job in the first month itself. So the picture isn't bad. It is just this reshuffling has been happening in the tech sector. None of the companies are being impacted, none of the sectors are being impacted according to me.
I have a bit of difference in opinion because let us talk about the pandemic a bit. Hospitality, airlines, specifically, in terms of certain cases in banking. So all these people lost jobs. They had difficulties even to square meals a day. I have seen people literally begging 50 rupees ki de do ki ek time ka khana kha le. There are people when we're talking about blue collar people I'm talking about. When we come with a pandemic, when we clear that and we become normal, then we see a rise in training and the talent war and the bubble and everything. Currently, if you ask me, looking at the current stage, I feel in IT there are two segments which Vinod also touched upon, you would have heard. Product IT and services IT. Rest all, why in IT, why there is a human cry? Because it's like Vasepur. Panchi ek haath se udta hai. और एक हाथ से बचाना पड़ता है. So IT is like that, where you take the fruits of work from home, you have to enjoy everything, but you have to bear the brunt of being at the acting level as well. But currently now, there is no downsizing or right sizing happening in hospitality, airlines, banking, pharmaceutical. Pharmaceutical is great. Please, if you get an opportunity, join pharmaceutical, recession proof, it's pandemic proof, it's corona proof. But the only thing is the salary increase does not happen tremendously. The only demerit of pharmaceutical. In product IT, there is no downsizing happening. We got the list from Swiggy, Zomato, but they were all for the people for the services IT. So services IT, yes, there is a downsizing happening. It is because projects were not expected, the revenues have gone up. Product IT is safe. When you join a product base, it is one of the most premium as well, but services IT is a risk. So count your chickens before the hatch.
So most of you may be wondering from your perspective, right? So I think most of you are going to join one or the other IT companies. You may be wondering what is your future, because everybody thought that Google is a safe company. Maybe Facebook may be a safe company, and maybe other multinational may be a safe company. And when you hear the news, especially till now, right, even though the layoffs were common in US, at least India was isolated from those. Everybody assumed that layoffs will not happen in India. But now everybody publicly announcing that the layoff is impacting even the India also. That creates some kind of a fear whether, what about you, whether it is going to happen or not. Now, if you look at, based on all these companies, right, whenever this resizing happens, and that ecosystem surrounding those companies get impacted. Now, if a company like Cisco layoffs, and whoever is their main purpose is to cut down the cost, and they will cut down the cost from the employee cost as well as the service or the contract related cost. Services companies also get impacted to some extent. But if you look at the current situation, whatever is happening, and we don't see, at least from our side, based on the vendors who we are working with, we don't see that much of a big impact, though there may be a slightly dip in the revenue or the contracts and all. But still, if you have a good skill set, and still those people are required by these big companies itself, they're still engaging. And at least in our company, we are coming across the cases where they definitely need the good engineers, and sometimes we may not be able to hire. And if you are really an expert, and if you are in some of these companies, and it can be easily, the situation will recover. And most of the time you may not have to be worried, and it is like a slightly dip which is happening in the industry, which is getting corrected and which get corrected.
Yes. So I would like to say the manpower reduction is happening everywhere. So I mentioned only manpower reduction is happening, not a good talent reduction. So be a good talent wherever you are working. As sir mentioned, prefer pharmaceutical industries. So I would like to recommend everyone, so you please stick with your passion. If you want to work with IT industry, if you want to work with service industry, product industry or pharmaceutical. So be a good talent, not only a manpower. Okay, that about
Yeah, most of the topics they have covered already. So one or two things, just continue with my first topic, like the growth of India. Like as you know, immediately after independence, Indian economy was dependent on agriculture. So most of, if you see our family ancestors or everyone, most of them were with agriculture. This culture was not there. Then after 1990, globalization and economy opened, a lot of changes happened. Then the service industry boom, we observed. Like from 1990, you can say up to 2020, the boom was there. Still it's there. In between that also, as you know, in 2000, the dot-com bubble happened. 2008, again this subprime effect, Lehman crisis, lot of things happened. In 2019, again this COVID thing. So even though there were a lot of issues in between, the growth trajectory is intact. There is no much change in the growth trajectory. Like the next prediction is, like in India, the next contribution for economy may be from equally from the manufacturing and from the service sector. Because now the 60% of economy is contributed by service sector, 50 to 60%. So this may change now. Like slowly the shift will happen to manufacturing. The main reason was all Europe and US companies were made their base in China. But now the situation in China is not very favorable for business. So a lot of companies are thinking to come out of China. Like as you know, in the automobile industry, now if you book a car, you will not get it easily. You may have to wait for 3 months to 1 year. Now XUV 700 waiting period is more than a year. Like for an Indian company like Mahindra, you have to wait for more than a year for getting a car. So the main reason behind is semiconductor shortage. China and Taiwan were the countries where these items were made. Now India is investing a lot into it. So the next destination, maybe it will be India. Like we are not very sure because it all depends on our talent pool, our ramp up in production, how we can do it. So there the involvement of all technologies and manufacturing, all the cereals, all the fruits, everything grown here. So you have to get it from any other places. So the logistic cost involved is around 20% in the case of food, minimum. So if you come down in that, then there is a huge potential for the consumption. Because like if you see, it's not like the earlier years. Nowadays, like last 10 years, you will get all the fruits and everything. There is no season like that. You will get everything every time. So the technology has come up to that level, but the logistic is a concern for India. So the government is investing a lot. Like there are roads are built up. Now freight corridors, already one or two are already inaugurated in UP and all. Like west and east they will be connecting, and south and north they will be connecting. So immediately after that there will be huge improvement in the logistic part. And this water logistics also, we are investing a lot into it. So there is huge scope for India to, as a manufacturing hub, we can convert it into a manufacturing hub. Because we have a lot of talent pool. Just during lunchtime we were discussing with sir. So I was telling every year some 10 to 15 lakh engineers are coming out of the college in India. But the requirement is around 2.5 lakhs. So the difference you can see. The 20% only will get job. So the situation is very tough nowadays. So that's why all these topics are everywhere the discussion is happening. And as everyone told, the media is celebrating like anything. Like this downsizing, nobody is telling about the percentage, we already discussed. Now this Adani issue has come up, so the downsizing, everything has gone back now. Now the discussion is on Adani issue.
Before 1 and 2 months, Adani Group shared this very high prices, and that's why Adani Group ranked 2 or 3. But now it is out of the top 10. So why this happens to Adani Groups?
I am not the right person to answer it, but whatever I know I can say. I also read it in the paper, he was in top 3. Top 3 world's richest persons. Now he is out of 10. Yeah, now out of top 30 also. Yeah, there is off-topic discussion. But his share prices has come down. Normally, if you see, so there is a value for every share.
Around 1800.
But they are not laid off anymore.
Yeah, that's the main. Actually, I was coming into that. If you see Google, Meta, and everyone, their share prices are reduced by 50%. They have reduced their manpower by 5%. But if you see Adani, their share prices have come down by 78%. There was no layoff. So that may be because of Indian culture, plus the growth potential Adani is having. That India knows, the Adani knows. So this is not the right topic as sir told. So that's a totally different topic. So, but this is a great example. So after all these things also, there was no reduction. And recently he has paid back the loan amount also, huge amount he has paid back. So there are a lot of positive things also. That share market thing is a totally different discussion about. So coming back to the topic, so if you see there is huge potential in India. The great example is Adani only. He is into every sector now. Like Tata's, Birla's and Ambani. I told you regarding the auto sector also. The waiting period for a car is in India. Can you imagine? It's in India. And then if you see, the tax-paying population is just 3-4%. So there are a lot of irregularities that everyone is trying to match up, and there will be a lot of progress in this. Thank you.
Okay, so that's an interesting topic. Why don't you catch up with us after we finish this session, right? I think networking session, we can always carry this conversation forward. But I think there's one more important thought at the back of everyone's mind, which is, how does it impact you students? What do you learn from the downsizing? What's happening? I think there's a basic question you guys are going to ask. So one thing I would point out is that, just carrying on with the statistics shared earlier, there are around 15 lakh engineering graduates coming out in India every year. Out of 15 lakh folks graduating, there are probably only 2.5 lakh job opportunities, which means that 20% have a chance of getting some job or the other, but most people do not find a job. That's really the nature of India's economy. Out of the 2.5 lakh jobs being created, I think 1.8 lakh jobs are in IT and data analytics and coding. So in hardcore engineering, the core engineering like civil, mechanical, put together, it's not too many jobs, it's probably only 70% jobs. That really is a number coming out with. Sorry? So that's the nature of the economy. And I would also say that when you look at all these companies like Facebook, right? There are a lot of people in COVID who were looking at Facebook videos. Google share prices went up because a lot of people looking at YouTube videos. Amazon stock prices went up because a lot of people sitting at home, maybe not working, they're like doing online shopping on Amazon, so that was what's happening. Likewise with Pinterest, Snap, Netflix, everybody was going to social media watching new videos and doing stuff there. But as people begin to work from office, all this is coming down, it's going back to normal. So I'm also sensing a change in the market that some sectors like social media is coming down. There's also evolution in new sectors. There are other sectors which are picking up. So we always want to go around talking about like, as the students here think about other career paths and other skills they want to learn, what should they be focusing on? So do you want to begin with? Maybe begin with Ashish. It's super interesting.
I think that the need for the students is not to look at the package, but to look at the role. So there are basically three schools of thoughts. First is I go to job because I want to earn money. The second is I go to job because I want to advance in my career, and the third is I go to job because I like to do the job, I like the role, and it gives me a purpose in my life. So I think the students should go and find out what is the right job fit for them and what kicks them, what excites them. And there's a very famous quote from Steve Jobs that I really like. It states that your life, your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to love what you do. So you have to go and find out what you love. Just don't look at the compensation or the packages. It can be from any sector, it can be from any field. Find out what you love and do it.
I'll share a small story. I think you will relate the answer. Because we know the question is very specific. What you should do so that even if you get impacted tomorrow, you should not get impacted only in terms of like what you should do and left around ki kya karna hai. So let me share this small story which feels very related to the engineers. This is engineering story. So जो लोग सो रहे हैं वो उठ जाएं, जो उठे हैं वो जाग जाएं. I told you the session is very difficult. After lunch, ये सब कोई downsizing वो भी negative वाला सुनना बड़ा मुश्किल होता है. But let me tell you the story, मजा आएगा आप लोगों को. Which language should I use? I'm more comfortable in Hindi. I don't know. English में ना वो तंज नहीं आता है. हिंदी भाषी कितने हैं यहाँ पे? हाथ उठाओ जरा. बढ़िया चलो. तो बाकी जो majority में नहीं है वो समझ लेंगे इसको. बांग्ला बोलते पारी प्रॉब्लम नहीं. Speak 12 languages, so don't worry. So हिंदी में सुनाता हूँ. 3 आदमी पत्थर तोड़ रहे थे. वो पत्थर तोड़ने वाले अपने आप को इंजीनियर पकड़ रहे थे. ठीक है. वो पत्थर तोड़ रहे थे और एक they were breaking stones एक जगह पे. तो एक राजा आता है. तो राजा दिखाता है देखो 3 लोग पत्थर तोड़ रहे हैं. बट उसमें से एक बंदा बहुत गुस्सा में था, एक नॉर्मल था और एक खुश था. तो जो साधु महात्मा आए वो गए उनके पास. तो बोले आप पत्थर तोड़ रहे हो. तो बोले तीनों एक ही काम करते हैं लेकिन इनका आउटपुट अलग है. पत्थर तोड़ लेंगे। तो बोलता अच्छा है, फिर बात करते हैं। तो गए, पहले आदमी से पूछा आप क्या कर रहे हो? तो वो गुस्सा में बोला देख नहीं रहे पत्थर तोड़ रहा हूँ, कमा के फैमिली को खिलाना है शाम को। ठीक है, दूसरे आदमी के पास गए, क्या कर रहे? क्या करे, पत्थर तोड़ रहे हैं और कुछ नहीं करने को है तो पत्थर तोड़ रहे हैं। तो तीसरे आदमी के पास गए, वो पत्थर, वो भी पत्थर तोड़ रहा था। तो उनको बोला आप क्यों तोड़ रहे हो पत्थर? तो बोल रहे हैं कुछ अच्छा बन रहा है उसके लिए पत्थर तोड़ रहे हैं। तो वो राजा के सामने बोले उन तीनों, तो वो साधु के साथ राजा वापस आए, तो बोले देखा आपने इन तीनों एक ही काम कर रहे हैं लेकिन मनस्थिति अलग है, तीनों का परिस्थिति भी अलग है। तो फिर उन्होंने क्या किया कि क्या जरूरत है उस समय, अब आप लोग को हम लोग बोलेंगे जो 6 फिगर सैलरी कमाते हैं ये करो वो करो, ना हम अपना सैलरी आपको देंगे ना बैंक अकाउंट का डिटेल देने वाले हैं। The entire idea to drive your career is you. We can just be torch bearers की बता सकते हैं कि नुकसान कहाँ है, फायदा कहाँ है। जैसे ट्रेन पे लिखा रहता है ना, सवारी अपने सामान की खुद जिम्मेवार है। तो हम लोग पे भरोसा मत करो, पर हम लोग को लिंक्डइन पे आपने बोला था इसलिए डाउनसाइज हो गए। तो we have not come here to get alienated, right? Now I tell you the gist of the story. तो क्या करना चाहिए मेरे को पता नहीं आया। I don't know. I might not be as good as you tech to give you an advice. But as an elder, I can tell you there are only one thing which you need to do. कृष्ण की तरह साथ ही ढूंढना पड़ेगा। You have to find a mentor, not your seniors. अंधों में काला राजा मत ढूंढो। Please find a mentor from the industry, not your seniors, please. तो वो फिर गए महात्मा उनके पास, और अब मनस्थिति कैसे चेंज किया, जो उन्होंने वक्तव्य दिया वो परिस्थिति का था। अब मनस्थिति कैसे बदलता है मेंटोर, वो देखो। तो उन्होंने दिखाया, पहले बंदों को उन्होंने बोला कि तुम गुस्सा में मत बोलो कि पत्थर तोड़ो, बोलो पत्थर तोड़े जाके फैमिली के साथ में बैठ के खाना खा सके, कि करने को कुछ नहीं है। You should be thankful, at least कुछ करने को तो है, at least I am able to break the stone। और तीसरे बंदे के पास गए, उसको बोला आप मोटिवेट करो, वो सेल्फ मोटिवेटेड है। तो उसको क्या कहा कि आप खुद तो खुश हो, क्यों नहीं अपने साथ तो सबको लेके चलते हो, उसको खुश करो। जैसे मोदी जी बोलते हैं सबका साथ। So this is the only remedy to fight everything in life is to find a Sarathi, a professional Sarathi, a personal Sarathi. That's it from me. Thank you.
So just to go back to the specifics of what should we be doing, right? And his question is, there are a lot of new technology is there, and if I pick up this technology, is it going to help me or not? That question again starts, maybe haunts you. Now again, it is based on my experience. Every time, every 3 years, and you will start something new, and you will be in a dilemma whether I should learn these or not. Now, what my advice is, at least your basics of engineering, right? I think you have to be perfect in the basics of engineering, and the new technology and new products keep coming. And if our fundamentals are correct, easily you can survive those. Just to give an example, right now, when we were working on, we were basically programming in C, C++, and then at least 10 years back, the trend was Python. And nowadays, everybody is talking about Go language, because Python is also becoming a old language. And whoever basically knows Go language, they will get the good salary and the good package. Now, it may not be possible for you to keep learning something new unless your fundamentals are clear. If for the computer science students, if you are good in data structures, if you are good in algorithms, and if your analytical skills and the reasoning skills is good, and if tomorrow after the Go language, if there is a new language comes up, within 2 months you can easily pick up. Maybe a 2 months lagging behind is not a big setback. So keep your fundamentals good, and you can easily survive. And the other thing is, there are a lot of opportunities are there. Now the open source is another one where if you develop an open source contribution as a hobby, and even if you don't like your project, you can go back and contribute to the society by working on the open source. And that also helps you to basically learn something new and contribute your skill set, and sometimes it may happen, you may come up with very good product for this society through the open source. So that we can use as an opportunity. If there is a downsizing or the right sizing, and if people are getting impacted, the suggestion is don't get discouraged. Your fundamentals are correct, you will always get the opportunity, and try to explore the options such as open source and all, which helps you to basically keep occupied and not get demotivated at all. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as Karan ji said, we should follow our passion. If someone want to become a software engineer, I recommend please go. If someone want to become an HR, please go ahead. So, मुझे क्या कहना है? रेगुलर काम करने से क्या मिलता है? सैलरी मिलता है. So, कुछ एक्स्ट्रा ऑर्डिनरी, आउट ऑफ बॉक्स कुछ काम करते हो तो क्या मिलता है? सैलरी भी मिलता है प्लस प्रमोशंस, बहुत सारे चीजें मिलते हैं. So one of my relatives is working in US itself. तो recently 3 months back when I joined this Tata Hitachi, उस टाइम पे उनको US में सेंट लुइस से एक ऑफर मिली थी. बट उसकी कंपनी उसको ऑफर सैलरी प्रपोजल देखने के बाद उतना पैकेज देख के उसको रिटेन किया. Why? Because he did something out of box job in his field itself. So I recommend don't do your regular job, do something extraordinary, do research, to learn something, so that will promote you. Thank you.
So you already got to know. So HR gave you the next step what to do. So if you permit, I will just make it interactive. Is it okay? Which I will take some 5-10 minutes. So like I will give you 2-3 options. Like they already gave you regarding the passion, what to learn, the technology changes, the programming, languages and everything. So HR people are giving all technical knowledge to you. So I am not the right person to continue. So I will give you 2-3 things. The first option in front of you is like job seeker or job giver. So what you want to choose? Just 2-3 opinions. No, just on mic and why.
Giver, sir.
Just introduce yourself and just tell which one and why.
Hi, myself Vinod Patel. I would choose giver because like if I am involved in a business or in my startup, then I will be generating employment which would solve one of the biggest problem of country plus contributing GDP and economy. So we can we can have less import, more export. It will give rise to our economy and strengthen the country.
Good, all the best. The next one.
Thank you, sir.
Job giver, because as sir said, take a job which you are passionate about. So if I am taking a job, I have to find a job that is my passion. If I make jobs, I can make a job that I am passionate about, so that I don't have to find it.
Very good.
Whatever I make, I will be always passionate about it.
Good, all the best. Any job seeker in this group? Any job seeker? Just to get a different perspective.
Sir, I'm Srihari and I would say I would first like to become a job seeker and then a job giver because I need to understand how exactly the world works and the tech works, and then I think I can start giving job.
Very good, very good. Good, all the best. Yeah, okay. The next question. Like the topic is downsizing. After working for maybe 3 to 5 years, yeah, 10 years, if you like in a difficult situation, like by downsizing you are out of some company or somewhere, or you are a job giver, like because of any macroeconomical factors or whatever, your business is going down, then what will you do? So because all these media and everyone is telling you a lot of things, so what's your opinion? Just any 1 or 2. I'm asking not with the present situation, after maybe 5 to 10 years of job, giver or seeker, whatever.
Sir, in that situation, I would like to say that I would consider 2 things, that if my survival is in danger, then I would go with downstairs that you are talking about, and if that I have a second option to retain our company's others employers to gain our profit, then that would be correct. And I would stay with the second decision. But if survival is in danger of our own company, then we would go with downstream of employers.
What is your alternative employment? What you will do if you are sacked out of job? क्या करोगे? The question is no. So what I'm saying, what sir is asking, if you are either a job giver or seeker, if you lose your job after 3 to 5 years, what would you do? Will you become a dancer? Puri chola
Before, sir, I would want to say that before losing my job, I would give a perspective that I am happy with that, because before I losing my job, I would pursue minimum 3 to 4 types of soft skills that would help me to retain in this situation, like sir telling that dancing, or because I don't like in dance, I like.
I am not saying you do dance.
No, sir. You give me an example, but
you can do whatever you want.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. What would you do?
Sir, I would like to do something designing and something related to mathematics, and that's all. Painting types. This thing.
There are a lot of opportunities.
Yes,
it's like hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Yes, sir.
That's why this question.
Talk in my perspective as a usually if after 3 years or 5 years if I lose a job, suppose if I graduate at 24 years or 23 years, and if it is 28, suppose if I think that my survival in the industry will be difficult, then most probably I will try for any public sector jobs or any government job. At least I will settle a small for any public sector job. That would be my preference.
Okay, good.
Sir, in future, if I lost my job, then I choose a teaching career. Because it is a well-said statement that you will lose everything in your life, but the only thing that you will retain is your knowledge. So what I will do that I will use my knowledge to gain income as a secondary source for that. And when I have an income, I will start my own startup, something like that.
सही से बताने के लिए put some hand on your heart. कौन वापस यहाँ पे आके प्रोफेसर बन जाएगा? Who would like to come back to IIT Dharwad to become a professor?
Raise your hand.
Please raise your hand. We want to see. Who would like to become a professor in IIT Dharwad if they lose their job? Thank you so much.
Expected answer, right? Just one suggestion for this thing. Like for this question, the question was like, after 5 to 10 years, what will you do? Just very small suggestion I will give you. Like from the first year onwards, you learn something. For example, like you are, just for assumption, first year you are earning around 10 lakhs. Just keep a part of it as saving, investment. So always start with that. That percentage you can decide, 20%, 30%, 50%, whatever. Just keep a percentage as an investment, maybe for 10 years. So 10 years you just invest in India growth story or US growth story, it will be in crores after 10 years. Then you can start with your passion, your soft skills, teaching is another option. So a lot of things are there. So always just remember that. Just one last question. Like, you all are waiting for the placements, right? So like over in 4th year, most probably got the job also. So immediately after getting into the job, maybe first 2 years, what's your expectation from the company? This is for a job seeker, so only job seekers can answer. Nobody is a job seeker? So that's a good thing.
To explore more career options that I will target on the first 2 years. Like
That's against the company, right?
that might be, but I will work over that.
Okay, and then next.
I would expect that the company will provide me a proper growth environment where I can develop my skills so that they will help me in future also.
Yeah, that's the question. What growth you are looking for?
Like in every field, means if I'm in an IT field, I would obviously look how it means on different projects, work in different teams under different high delegates, means who have a greater knowledge than me, of course. Working under them will obviously give me a lot of information how things work and how they are actually.
Okay, good. One more opinion, anybody?
I will basically do two things. First will be I would look for a mentor and try to look for growth options. And secondly, I would try creating a side hustle.
Sorry, second one?
Side hustle. Like I would try experimenting on various types of skills that I have apart from the technical skills that I have. And I would try to build upon that as well, side by side. Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, thanks everyone for the participation. Thanks, sir. Okay, so great hearing from everyone. Maybe I'll just add 2 cents from my end because I was not able to contribute to this conversation. So, something which I want to highlight is that in the tech sector, right, there is impact in terms of some jobs are impacted. But what people are also noticing is that there are some great changes happening in the landscape. So anyone here heard of ChatGPT or, yeah, so obviously everyone has heard of it, right? So now Google is scared of ChatGPT. So I think 2 days back, there was some problems with advertising around their AI offering and their share market valuation fell by almost $100 billion because of a displaced ad. Because people watching media, they thought that Google has no answer to Microsoft. So, by the way, Adani shares fell by $120 billion and even Google shares fell by almost $100 billion overnight. But I mean, the response is very mixed, right? For Adani, it's like, okay, everything is broken, crazy. But for Google, it's like, it's okay. I mean, it happens all the time. So that's what happens with Google. So what that means for you students is that there are spaces like artificial intelligence and machine learning where there will always be a need. And all these spaces are also beginning to disrupt traditional sectors like mechanical engineering, civil engineering, oil and gas. These sectors are being impacted by artificial intelligence. So if you want to play it safe, if you want a place where there will always be some job and you will always, like if you do a good job in the direction, you will always have some job, I think AI, ML is a good place to bet on because there will always be some job in the direction. There will always be disrupting some sector or the other. Like Google search, there's a fear that ChatGPT will replace Google search. That's the cash cow for Google. The Google business will be totally destroyed if ChatGPT becomes much bigger. So there's a lot of fear about how Google is going to respond to it. What is Google going to do about it? So this is the safe answer. But I think the more difficult answer is like what we heard from the team members out here. You have to follow your passion. Right? The first difficult thing about following your passion is you should ask yourself, what are you personally passionate about? What is it you like on a regular basis? I personally believe that every person born on this earth has some passion. There is something which they really, really want to do. And I'll give you a small tip, okay? This is based on some books I've read. If you want to discover your passion, ask yourself this question. If money was no object to me, no problem for me, what would I be doing with my life? If I had suddenly tomorrow I win a lottery, as much money as ever want, what will I do with my life? What will I continue to chase? The answer you give yourself is probably where you're interested, probably where your passion is. It doesn't matter what it is. In fact, I had a friend when I was in school, and he used to tell me this when I was in school, that he was an ornithologist who was very good at bird watching and all that. So he used to tell me that whatever your passion is, it doesn't matter whether it's high paying, low paying, or like, even for example, if you're a very good bird watcher, but if you're the best in the world, people will pay any amount of money to you to get your advice and feedback. So the thing is, you have to be the best in the world in something, right? That's a very difficult question. Everybody takes safe path, does things which
gives them good compensation, good career prospects, promotions, travel to foreign countries. But ask yourself, what do you really like? Try to do that. I don't know if everybody's in a situation like that, finish undergrad, but I will follow my passion, right? So I think the safe option, like probably one of my friends here answered that. Maybe do a job, but also simultaneously keep building towards something else, like read a lot of books, watch stuff online, try to create a skill on certain passions you really care about. You may not get there in 6 months, 1 year, but over time you will keep building your interest and competencies and you will get to where you need to be. So that's the way I will leave the conversation. The only other thing I was going to say is that I think there's a very interesting question which came up today, which is what are my strengths? What are the skills I am good in? What careers should we work on? I don't think there's ever been a good answer to these questions. You have to ask yourself. But I actually as part of the reason why I am working in the startup space is actually trying to solve some of these problems around how do you identify your skills, how do you match it to the ideal careers you can have. So we are working on an idea called Careerbolt, and we are actually making headway in that direction. And we have some people with us today from IIT Dharwad who are helping us make the product, and it's actually going to be live within 2 months. And actually, I have one friend here, Tushar, who is working from the 3rd year. And he's can you stand up, Tushar, just brief, like 10 seconds. So Tushar is a mechanical engineer, but he has a hell lot of interest in software, front end, back end. Thanks, Tushar, really appreciate it. So I'm just saying that there are some people who I think know what they want to do, and when you get an opportunity to work with people, work on projects, take it up. Try to work with industry-sponsored projects, work with industry as early as possible, because you quickly get feedback in terms of what you need to be doing. So we are lucky to get Tushar, but I'm sure that all of you will find opportunities if you look for it. So let me freeze the conversation there, and maybe let's finish up this conversation, right? Any last thoughts before, do you want to do this? Or let's just open it up to Q&A then. Ashish, listen to all of us talk. Any questions from your end? And we're happy to be here for the next half an hour to answer these questions. And we can also catch up separately for a networking session. So over to you, back to you. Can we maybe do a Q&A session if that's fine with you folks?
Sir, with respect to downsizing, obviously the person who will be laid off would be one who will be less performing or had let loose sometimes some parts in the company, right? So opposite to it, when we talk about hiring or recruitment, when big companies like Tata, TCS, Infosys or Careerbolt, etc. come for recruiting students in premium institutes like IIT, what the extra X factor you look in a candidate? As all are IITians, there will be a certain level of skill set for with everyone. What extra X factor you look for?
There are 2 questions. Right? First question was related to whenever the downsizing happens, is it due to performance level? Usually performance level reduction will definitely happen in the company. We don't call it as a downsizing or the resizing. Performance-based termination of the employees will definitely happen. Downsizing or the resizing happens only when there is a business pressure where the company will not have enough fund to sustain the operations. And when the downsizing or the resizing happens, it does not matter whether the person is performing or not. Sometimes the company may decide to close one business division itself, and whoever is there in the business division, everybody gets impacted, including those who are highly performing. And usually, again, the HR or the company try to retain the highly skilled employees and highly performing employees if there is a way to basically allocate them in any other part of the company. They try to evaluate that one. But in some cases, it definitely will happen, the entire business will get closed. And the second question which you asked about is, when you are hiring for the companies, what are the X factor companies look for from the IIT graduates, right? Now, especially my experience is whenever you go for hiring from the campuses or even the lateral hiring, I believe that the programming languages, we can train the candidates on the programming languages. If tomorrow there is a new languages, we can train them. But the analytical and reasoning skill is the one which cannot be trained. And if the candidate is really not good on those things, and we definitely cannot train, though some of those people are also required, because you typically have a bell curve, right, where the highly performing candidates also you need, and we need remaining employees to take it forward. We definitely need it. But the X factor which we need from the top candidates is their analytical and the reasoning skills. And we know that as our business changes, and these are all the people who easily can learn something new and contribute to the business.
Sir, one more question. What companies prefer a person with less skill, knowledge, experience, but ready to work hard and improve his or her skills and give his 100% to grow the company, or another guy who is good in knowledge, skills, but works on his mood, or he is not on his toes every time, or maybe he would submit his work on time, but he's having less enthusiasm. So which type of person?
I don't think if you have less enthusiasm, you can perform better. So I think that question needs to be rephrased. The question which you are talking is mainly hinting towards quiet quitting. That if I am in the organization, agar hum jahan pe hain, I'm not putting my best, but still I'm there at the table in a chair. For any organizations, I can second, I have come across, we will not be looking. So if you are a high performer with a bad behavior, that question can be that you are taking the company for a toss, you might be an A-rater and you are throwing tantrums or you are misbehaving. I think, no, we will not.
It is not just like behavior. You know the skills or you have the knowledge, you perform good, but it is not like you want to contribute to the company or you are happy if the company grows. Such kind of thing. You are just like you are hired or you are working in a company, that's why you are just working.
No. So performance is the key. See, if you are performing.
Can I just take a pause? I think your professor here wants to add some comments. So professor, can you please add some your thoughts about this question, please?
See the IIT course structure. You have core courses, not only in the special field, a range of courses, and you have buckets of electives. The idea is that yes, you have gone for a job or something, which may become irrelevant, because when a student is talking, it's a 30 years also. But the idea is that because of this structure of core courses and some electives, then you people have correctly pointed out that the highest thing, internship or other interaction with the industry or other experts, so that the person can foresee if he becomes irrelevant in the present thing, then he has time to adapt to other things. That is because of these core courses. Unfortunately, many students feel why I should study this outside, as an example, my machine learning or programming language. But the structure of a core course, electives, including this interaction with the industry and others, over these 4 years, ideally it should make him perfect. Whether the students do, you people will have to train again. Okay.
So Professor, I'll just add a couple of points, right? I used to look after Cisco hiring in both US and in India. I had the chance to compare the performance of students from IIT versus some of the other top schools in the US. So one thing I always liked about the IITs is that the curriculum is standardized across all IITs. It's pretty much the same curriculum. The quality of faculty is pretty much the same. So the good thing about whether it's a first-gen IIT or third-gen IIT is that excellent infrastructure and excellent coaching is always going to happen. And it's up to students in terms of how much time they want to spend on it and how much they learn from it. Right? So students also need to participate in the process. There's a feeling, for example, that the placement office will find the jobs. But what students also need to understand is that the best job only go to those students who also do a lot of hard work well in advance and get ready for placements. They are the people who find the best possible jobs. So when I talk about my experience working as a Cisco, like a recruiting manager, was that the number one skill we look for is domain knowledge. So whether it's mechanical engineering or computer science, right, you have to know your subject. You should be very good at it. There's no shortcuts around it. That's the number one thing. In addition, I think this goes back to the question from my friend out here about what are the people skills required, right? Somebody is very good at tech skills, but is a very poor communicator who doesn't get along with people. Nobody wants such people. You want people who can work in a team, get work done, and are even willing to compromise on a little bit of the domain skills, because industry will also teach you from scratch. They will also teach you in terms of how to get there. From first 1 or 2 years, you're basically learning, not really like adding too much value to the team. So it's pretty much of like, if you have the right people skills, you will learn, but you cannot be taught people skills. You either have it or don't have it. So those are some things I would really encourage you guys to think about, making sure that you prep for interviews, focus on people's skills, and even if you don't have the right domain skills, come across as a person who's humble, modest, willing to learn. You should not be a person who comes across as, hey, I'm from IIT, I'm not listening to anyone, unless it's any high compensation, I will not talk to you. That's not the way you should be. You should be like, if I'm willing to learn, throw work at me, I'm willing to work hard. And I'm already seeing examples. We have friends here who are working on Careerbolt. We have around 7 people from IIT Dharwad I'm working with. I think all of them are like, they're not here asking, what do I get from this experience? They're more like, give me something, I want to practice, I want to learn new skills. If you have the drive and ambition, you will get to wherever you need to. It's easy answer for mine. Anybody else?
Thank you, sir. Sir, I wanted to ask, I saw posts in LinkedIn as well that people with 20 plus years of experience also got laid off. So when like resizing is being done, which is if the people are well off, they belong to rich families. So isn't this unfair, like whoever belongs to a well-off family, but isn't it unfair to do so?
Completely agree what you said. But what happens, there is no, so when that discussions happen, it's not, this is predominantly my way or highway. There is no if and but there. Because it's a very straight cut off discussion because, nobody likes to lay off, to be honest. Neither we like to do it, neither CEOs like to do it, neither employee likes to be on the receiving end. It is just putting some reasons to satisfy your personal grey matter. These are not logical. These are just reasonings to satisfy your, statistical grey matter. But on a hindsight, if you look at it from the Indian context, sometimes people, practitioners do support this very rarely. Because you become empathetic to the people who really require it. It's about the journey of need and desire. If you pass out from here, you expect X LPA salary, then you get 2X, 3X. When it reaches, sometimes they will, some of you will become CEO, some of you will become product manager, some of you will become something marketing professionals after MBA. Some of you were speaking to me during that lunch hour, we want to do an MBA as well. So it is your choice. But ultimately, from an organization's perspective, it is just nomenclature. There is no rationale behind it. It is just because these are the 5 which are predominantly discussed. अगर किसी को ज़्यादा ज़रूरत है 2 रोटी का तो organization उसके प्रति sympathetic हो जाता है. Like we had a layoff in Compass. It was a hospitality segment giving catering services to all the IT giants. We gave away the laptop. We gave 3 months of salary as severance pay. We also gave the medical insurance extended to their and their family for the next 1 year so that they can be taken care of. So companies are considerate, but अपना घर का नुकसान करके तो किसी का नहीं भला कर सकते.
Okay, thank you, sir. What about the other thing, like people with 20 plus years of experience are also getting laid off. So is that because their salaries are really high? Because like the company wants to cut off a bigger chunk instead of many small salaries instead of one big salary?
No, salary is not the reason. I think salary is one of the reasons. It is not the only reason. But CEOs think that people who become, if the work can be done at a cheaper cost by a younger generation, and we can teach him and we are able to take that risk, that he makes mistakes and we are able to absorb that risk. Why should I pay for that same work with a lesser risk to a higher person? It's like wearing a Rado against a fast track. So it's like a Vanusen against cotton counts.
Let me add to that, right? I think Ashish is raising a valid point here. So first thing I would say is that it is not about age. I think there is something deeper, which is that people fail to update their skills. As you become older and older, there is a feeling that, I don't need to learn. I'll do whatever I want to do, and the company keeps paying me highly for it. Like I can share with you, one of my very good friends of mine, he graduated like long time back. with the computer science degree in one of the best schools in India. He got a very good job after graduation. But then he never updated his skills over time. So I think he was getting very well paid for the first 5 years, first 7 years, first 8 years. Then I think the company asked him to leave. He chose a job which paid him less. Still did not update his skills. After some time, after a couple of years, he started falling behind. Then he changed jobs again, lower compensation. And right now he's not being paid well at all compared to where he is. And younger people have picked up better skills, probably better than him in many respects. They're getting paid a lot more. So the problem here is not age, but the fact that this person doesn't bother to update his skills. Just because you graduate with the top degree from top school, it will help you for 2-3 years, but after a certain point of time, you will run out, and you will have to learn from scratch. Right? So I think that's more important than age, so that's the way I would look at it. I'd also add to the second question saying that when Cisco lays off people, they have to do a check of, is there husband and wife couple in the layoff list who are both getting impacted? Because if they are, then they'll remove one of the names from the list. So they don't want the entire family to be impacted. But then you can now complain that, okay, this is discrimination against people who are single, saying that, okay, they are being kept in the list, but a couple is not getting impacted the same way. But again, that's life, right? We're trying to be sympathetic, and somewhere somebody will get hurt, whatever you do. That's the sad thing about HR, is that we'll always be slammed, whatever we do, whatever good thing we try to do. Yeah, so that's probably the way to look at it. And I would still say that if you're very good in your job, you just don't bother to lay off now. If you're really adding value, if you're top of your game, if you're updating your skills and performing, nobody's going to touch you, because recruiting a similar person like you from the external market is way more expensive than letting go of it. So companies will fight tooth and nail to regain the top 10% and top 20% of the working population. So that's would be an answer to your question.
Also to add, my CTO is based out in US still today. He is regarded as one of the top 3 semiconductor industries. He invests 2 hours daily to re-update. If we would have been speaking, at least me, in management college, we would have talked about how to make a CV. I was asked by one of your fellow colleagues how to make a CV. See, engineers, I assume their brain lies on their fingertips. How you can effectively use that to narrate your performance. You don't require CVs, PDP, or this is a good to have, but you will be hired for your skills. They will not be looking how best you are dressed up, कितना ज़्यादा अच्छा फिल्म स्टार लग रहा है, शाहरुख खान लग रहा है, उसके लिए नहीं hire होंगे. You will be hired for your skills, but sometimes you have to also put into that non-technical skill into aspect. How good is your LinkedIn? So LinkedIn is a wonderful platform today, a professional platform to connect with people. If you use it as an Instagram or a Facebook, this is your choice. But it gives enormous learning to network people, to reach out to people, to tag them and write something, connect with them. Most of the engineers are not good communicators, and I say that openly, they are not good communicators. If you all work upon that, tomorrow you should be able to develop the other side of the coin apart from the technical expertise as well. So PDP classes are as necessary as for the management students, it is necessary for you as well. So maybe please work upon that. This is my 2 cents.
Just one more advice is, you also basically do a realistic evaluation of your salary. Assume that the median salary in the industry is a certain level, and if you are already getting 3x, 4x of that salary, you have to treat it as you have basically drawn money from your future. And then at least you will realize which is a realistic which you can accept. For most of the people, opportunities are available, but they are not ready to come down. They consider it as an insult in basically taking the lower salary, but it may not be realistically lower salary, because they have drawn the salary from future because their salary is already high.
Thank you so much, sir.
So in the past session you mentioned that you know one PhD guy who he got the offer from some company like $500,000, something like that.
Could you repeat that? It's a noise. Could you repeat, please?
Yeah.
So you have mentioned that you know one person who got the offer of $500,000 in US, something like that. Like what lifestyle he is gonna be like if he is paying, like if he is getting $500,000 per year. Like his lifestyle gonna be 3/8, like 8 hours work, 8 hours general things and 8 hours sleep. His lifestyle gonna be like that, or more like a real 24/7. Like his weekends gonna be occupied, something like that. Like his lifestyle gonna be very busy or chill.
Okay, So I think every employee pretty much gets the same working expectations, which is that I think in my company at that point of time, it was pretty much like a 9 to 5 working culture. Again, this is before, around the time COVID was beginning, right? That's when the offer got made. So, not expected to work more than other people and all that, but I think this person brought something very unique to the table. He knew about AI and other applications in the space of cybersecurity. There's a very, very niche application skill set and not many people are good at it, right? That's one of the reasons why this person is getting paid well. But I would say that when it comes to downsizing, right, as an HR person, if you were to look at downsizing and how to select people, the first persons to be impacted by downsizing are exactly these people who are being completely overpaid with respect to their friends and colleagues. Like if their friends are getting paid $300,000 or $250,000 and one guy is getting paid $500,000, you'll be number one in the list because my target is to reduce cost. Right? Not just me, from the business perspective also, right? How do you reduce cost? And the easiest way to reduce cost, either you can lay off 2 people making $50,000 each, which is $500,000, or lay off 1 person making $500,000, right? Or if you have people making $100,000, you lay off 5 people making $100,000. What would you do, right? If you lay off 5 people making $100,000, and there's 1 person making $500,000. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're making a lot of money, I think a lot of eyes are going to be on you. A lot of people are looking at you and saying, does this person deserve it? Do they require this pay? Can you afford this person? It will look great in the beginning because you're making a lot of money. Over time, you also realize that you have to work very, very hard to keep up, keep running as fast as possible. So, even though the expectation is not that they are working like all the time, there's a latent expectation which is not voiced but understood that if you are getting paid over the market demands, then you should also contribute a lot more. So you should be working almost like the output of like 2 engineers. Right? If you're doing that, then it's fine. You can continue to be paid the same way. If not, again, when the next downsizing rounds happen, you will get chopped off. And by the way, the tech sector, this happens all the time. In Cisco, like every 2 years it used to happen. Actually, before COVID happened, right, our workforce was pretty much pruned. They cut from most of the flab from the organization. So actually, when COVID happened, we didn't lay off too many people. Not because we are doing extremely well, but we already cut out all the flab. There's nothing left to be cut. So actually, we escaped without doing much. It's the same thing with companies like Apple and so on. Right? We didn't hire much, and they never had much of a problem. So again, I'm just trying to say that if you're getting paid a lot more, yes, you should deliver a lot more. Whether you work more or whether you can create more impact in the workplace, it's up to you. But yes, there's more expectations.
Thanks.
Yes, sir. I have one question.
Okay, so this shall be the last question of the session.
Yes, sir. As you were discussing downsizing, but looking at the future economic projections right now, sir, have we passed the bottom yet? Is my question.
Okay, maybe I'll take a shot at answering this question. Again, we don't know. I think that really is the answer. There are a lot of other things too which are making things a little crazy. So I think the flap is getting removed, which means that yes, companies are returning to normal. So I think if you look at numbers like revenue generated per employee, right? There's revenue by number of employees, and I think for Facebook it was like every employee was generating around $1.5 million in terms of revenues. And during the COVID, it touched, I think, $500,000 per employee. So they believe that by cutting down these numbers, they can bring it back to $1.5 million per employee. So this is one number which is being used. They're slowly coming back to normal, but what we don't know so far is that there's macroeconomic uncertainty, there's a semiconductor chip shortage, there is this war in Ukraine. Will that become a world war? Will that cause more problems? We don't know. So I think everyone's waiting to see how this resolves itself. Inflation, is it going to come down? Is it going to go up once again? So based on how all these factors line up, we'll know then will this recession become worse or will we come out of it? Any thoughts?
Are you wondering what is your future?
Yeah, so basically, as sir said, then that when we have 3 to 4 years of job experience, so we should face the same situation.
Yeah, don't scare them. I'm scared a lot because of what is happening over there. At least for the fresh graduate engineers from the good institutes and all, it is not that bad situation. And at least sometimes we don't know the current situation. But you can always refer back to the history, what happened in 2002, 2008 and all. And every time there is a recovery. And as I mentioned, there is a outside international or the outside India story versus the India story. Luckily for us, if something goes down there, in India the growth is happening. So that at least you have to be basically consider that it will somehow basically go away. You don't have to worry about this.
Just to add, we were discussing with Vinod, you mentioned that India is the best place now to be in terms of tech, in terms of employment, compared to many other countries in the world. We were just discussing, and there are substantial data points to support what I'm saying. So I think we are in safe hands. We don't have to worry so much. Here and there we will be impacted, but as said that there is a chance of recovery. So we are in one of the best places to be in, fortunately. Not like the yesteryears that we used to feel disappointed. I think it's the best place to be.
So I'll share. Take one
or two points. Just summarizing the 2-3 questions. Like the first thing is, like we are from a manufacturing company. So the first thing it answers you also, like we want people like add value on a daily basis. So if you are just joining an organization, you are from a good college, premium college. So like we all recruit every year. Like even though ours is almost a cyclical business, like every 5 years we go down again go up and like that. But we recruit every year just to maintain the average age level of the group. In all departments there will be some freshers, just to get the fresh knowledge and to the department also gain some energy from that. Because we are coming up with a new energy, new attitude, new like technologies and all those things. We are with the same technology, same organizational issues, organizational values and all. So first thing is you should add some value to it. So from the first year, you may not be contributing to the company's profit, but you can contribute a lot to the department, adding value, adding energy to the department, and all those things. And later, and there will be a culture for every company. And you have to get adapted to that culture. So that's the second thing. So how fast you can adapt depends on your growth. The one thing is the technical growth, and the other one is the managerial growth. So you have to grow in both the directions. So get adapted immediately, easily, fast. So that's the second thing. And third thing is like keeping motivated. So every day keeping the same motivation level is impossible almost. But you have to be motivated, keep motivating the team. You have to be a team player. Wherever you work, this matters a lot. And this adds value to the organization, value to you. And the last point is upgrading your skill. You have to keep on upgrading. A lot of new technologies are coming up, a lot of new requirements, new opportunities. So you have to be, we all discuss different forums for upgrading the knowledge, upgrading your skills. So these 3-4 points, just initially you have to mention. Wherever, like as somebody told, you have to choose a right mentor. That's very important factor for all these things. Thank you.
So that one single point, right, is very important. Is that I think there are very strong reasons to be optimistic about the Indian growth story. But I think it's probably the only major economy in the world right now which is poised to grow very fast. Every other economy is sinking. Like Europe, UK is just a disaster right now. US is struggling to just come to the growth numbers. A lot of companies are moving the supply chain from China to India. There's going to be some semiconductor, like big semiconductor plant, which is probably going to be $1 trillion business in the next 5 to 7 years. A lot of CEOs talking about the fact that you can ignore India. And I'll share a very simple example with you, right? Instead of hiring an engineer in the Silicon Valley for say $200,000, I can hire the same quality in Bangalore for maybe 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs. And I'm going to save like like, I can get a great person for $40,000 in India, which was paying $200,000 in the US. So that's like massive cost savings. So I really feel that as companies begin to focus on operational efficiencies, a lot of the best jobs in Silicon Valley will 100% move out and come towards the low-cost countries, especially India, which is where most of the engineers are. There are not so many engineers in any other country in the world outside the US and India.
We are sorry all of us for discussing such a very difficult and a negative topic, but this is in your interest. I would like to एक दो लाइनें बोलना चाहूँगा। संघर्ष के बिना कोई महान नहीं बनता। संघर्ष के बिना कोई महान नहीं बनता। जब तक पत्थर को चोट ना लगे वो भगवान भी नहीं बनता।
And now we would like to invite Mr. Vinod to give us a summary of the panel discussion we witnessed today.
Okay folks, so basically let's quickly review like a quick 1-minute discussion in terms of the two topics we discussed today. So the morning conversation was around the topic of moonlighting. We talked about a bunch of things, like we talked about legal consequences, we talked about the pros and cons of moonlighting. There are also some questions around what is the best way to do moonlighting. Now that's a super tricky question to answer because being part of HR and business, we cannot really tell you how to break the system. So we did give some tips around what is possible, what's not possible, what are the commitments in terms of the employment contract you sign, the expectations from a regular full-time employee, and we also talked a little bit about what you can do as a contractor or as a freelancer, where the rules could be a little different. We also talked about the fact that if you're confused, you should talk to your immediate hiring manager, reporting manager, or you should go and talk to HR. And sometimes they will be able to find the right path for you. And if all of this fails, that probably means that maybe you're not working in a company which deserves you. You just need to move on, find other companies which will support you. And we did talk about a bunch of companies which actually support moonlighting. They have no problem with it. So identify those companies and go there. So that was kind of the meat of the morning conversation. The second topic was around, again, we talked right now about downsizing. I think downsizing is probably more important and relevant for you folks, and our sense is that it's probably only impacting the big tech sector and is not really impacting the other sectors like manufacturing, operations, transportation. Really, it's not at all impacted by what's happening. It is actually a good thing because the craziness around IT and tech jobs is coming down a little, and other jobs are also gaining value. So overall, I think it's a step in the right direction because we don't want a situation where every branch people are saying that I want to go to IT and data analytics to find jobs. Maybe you can find a different set of jobs in a company like Tata, Hitachi, for example, which is doing fantastic work. In a country like India, which is developing infrastructure, we need a lot of people who can build infrastructure, right? We need the mechanical engineers and we need the civil engineers. And if all of them go to work in IT, it's not good for the country. It's good for the individual that they can make more compensation, but it's going to definitely break the economy. So I think there are great opportunities coming up in different sectors. We talked about it. We also talked about the ability to maybe gain new skill sets, which is more important for you folks. IITs offer excellent courses, but again, on top of courses, you also need to explore opportunities like maybe getting new mentors, taking up electives, be in spaces where, like we talked a little bit of AI and ML, these are good skills to learn. And it's not just for computer science, but even a mechanic, like I'm a mechanical engineer myself. But if a mechanical engineer can learn machine learning skills and apply that to a machine shop, actually that can be a fantastic experience, right? In terms of how do you work with machines, how do you do predictive maintenance. These are all very, very relevant questions which are not being solved. So a lot of opportunities are emerging right now. So again, we finished the conversation saying that hey, there is nothing to worry about. There are some doors which close and many doors which open. So that really sums up the conversation in terms of what's happening in terms of downsizing. All of us are around, so we are going to wrap up this conversation. We are going to be available later, so if you want to talk to us maybe over a cup of coffee or if you want to chat with us, feel free to. Actually, we have spent our Sundays just to come here and talk to everyone. So I really appreciate all the panel members for coming here. And especially Ashish who kept all of us engrossed and enthusiastic, right? I mean, a lot of energy with him, and I think Mr. Srivathsa Mr. Srivathsa shared a wealth of his experience working in MapleLabs, and I think we really appreciate the deep insights he had about the tech industry and how we could learn from it. And I think Karan was a very interesting person because he also showed his different perspectives, right? I think many of us are talking in certain directions, and Karan was asking us to look at things from a different perspective. And he shared his experience in Bain & Company and some of his experiences in IIMs and some of the top tech companies. So loved hearing his feedback for sure. So thanks so much. And I totally love the contributions basically from Shenodh and Shivanan, because I think that's the most important thing, right? It's easy to say that computer science is the greatest sector out there, and we forget that there are also other sectors which are making a big impact. And companies like Tata, Hitachi, Tata Motors, and all the traditional companies, Bajaj Auto, they're doing invaluable service to the Indian economy, and they're basically a building block of India. It is almost like the Lego blocks creating a country. I mean, we have to respect these folks in terms of some of the immense value contributions they're making. And in the fact that they're also changing as a profession, they're valuing a lot of insights. So we love the feedback from them. So thank you once again, Shenodh. And thanks so much, Sarah. A lot of pleasure talking to you. It was great being here, and I'm hoping that this will be the beginning of many interactions between all of us and you students. Thank you again. Cheers.